Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at a craft that seems to be having a real moment, basket making.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I love that,
Right.
right? That whole trend of getting back to handmade goods, that connection to something truly unique.
Mm-hmm.
We asked you to take a look at some resources from RoleCatcher about what it actually takes to make a career out of basket making. And I have to say, I'm already fascinated by this.
What's interesting is how these sources show this whole career path as this kind of blend of traditional artistry, but also how to make it in the modern world.
Yeah, totally.
It's not just weaving, it's about navigating a market that values like handcrafted quality. But then there's also this whole digital side to it.
Right. And, I think at first glance, you might think, basket maker, okay, cool, but how complex can it be?
Mhm.
But then you dig into these guides and you're like, whoa, there's actually a lot more to it.
Mm.
So according to RoleCatcher, what exactly does a basket maker do, these days?
Well, they're artists, craftspeople,
Right.
first and foremost, right? So they're manually weaving objects with these really stiff fibers.
Okay.
But it's not just baskets, right? You're talking mats, furniture, even sculptures.
Wow. Yeah.
And what's really cool is how the guide really points out how different regions have their own specific techniques and materials.
Oh, interesting.
So it really adds this whole cultural layer to the craft.
So it's like each piece isn't just, telling the story of the person who made it. It's almost like a whole tradition in itself.
Yeah.
That's really cool. But then with all the mass-produced stuff out there, it makes you wonder, can you actually make a living as a basket maker in this day and age?
Well, and that's where it gets really interesting because the guide's actually pretty upfront about the challenges.
Okay.
It points out that job prospects can be, they can be limited.
Yeah.
And income is often kind of up and down.
Makes sense.
So it really takes someone special to really make it in this field, someone who's entrepreneurial, someone who can kind of hustle and really build their own brand.
Right. It's not just about mastering the skill of actually making it.
Yeah.
It's almost like you have to market your own skills.
Yeah,
And then find your own niche too.
exactly.
Speaking of which, I was kind of surprised to see how much the guide talked about technology being a big factor.
Right.
In this line of work, I wouldn't have thought about that being crucial for basket making.
You think of the solitary weaver, like hunched over.
Right, exactly.
But the reality is that technology is huge for basket makers to connect with customers, manage the whole business side of things.
Yeah.
So we're talking, building an online presence, social media, even stuff like SEO, so people can actually find what they're making.
Wow, that's wild.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's like we've woven technology into this ancient art, which is so cool.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But speaking of weaving, I'm curious about the actual career path. The RoleCatcher guide breaks it down into stages, right?
They do.
It's not like you just decide to be a basket maker and that's it. You're suddenly...
Yeah, you don't just wake up one morning and you're suddenly a master.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's a journey.
Okay.
It really is. And the guide does a nice job of laying out the different phases.
Okay.
And it starts with this entry-level basket maker.
Okay.
It's like your apprenticeship.
So you're learning the ropes, getting those calluses.
Yeah, lots of calluses.
Yeah.
You're mastering all those basic techniques, getting comfortable with the materials.
Right.
Honestly, you're probably doing a lot of the prep work for more experienced basket makers.
Oh.
So a thing like prepping fibers, you're following set patterns.
Gotcha.
Maybe even just keeping the workspace tidy, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it reminds me of when I first started cooking, I feel like I spent way more time chopping vegetables
Totally.
than I did actually making something.
Exactly.
But you need those basic skills,
Yeah.
right?
You got to learn to walk before you can weave a masterpiece.
Uh-huh. There you go.
Yeah. And even at this early stage, the guide stresses how important it is to understand that there are all these regional variations
Oh, interesting.
in basket making.
So it's not just learning how to do it one way.
Exactly.
It's almost like you're respecting all the different ways that it's done in different places.
Yeah, you're understanding the history, the diversity.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And the guide brings this to life with, they've got these examples, these profiles for each stage.
Oh, cool.
And they've got this one for, a junior basket maker.
Okay.
And it talks about how they're starting to design their own stuff.
Oh, cool.
Work with clients,
Yeah.
Really hone their skills.
So it's like that transition from following instructions to
Yeah, finding your voice.
finding your own voice. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's got to be an exciting time.
It is.
So, okay, what's next? What does an experienced basket maker look like according to this?
Well, now this is where it gets really cool.
Okay.
Because now you're not just making, beautiful baskets. You're
Right.
leading teams. You're mentoring junior basket makers.
Wow.
You're maybe managing projects, budgets.
So you're really like project managing on top of it.
Yeah. And the guide highlights this blend of like leadership and also just like business savvy,
Oh, interesting.
which is really critical, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. So you're not just weaving baskets, you're weaving a whole career.
That's a good way to put it.
Huh. Yeah. What about like on the creative side? Do experienced basket makers still get to experiment, try new things?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, the guide talks about how this is the stage where you see people experimenting with different materials.
Okay.
Maybe coming up with totally new techniques.
Wow.
Even like incorporating technology.
Oh, right. Like we were talking about CAD software. How does that actually work?
Yeah. Imagine being able to design these super intricate things on a computer,
Okay.
like manipulate them in 3D, and then basically use that as your blueprint for weaving.
Wow.
So you can get like a level of precision and complexity that you couldn't really achieve by hand.
That's so cool.
It's amazing.
So it really is like ancient craft meeting modern tech.
It is.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So we went from apprentice to experienced, what's like the top.
Well, the guide calls it the senior basket maker.
Okay.
And it's interesting because it's not just about, reaching a certain skill level
Right.
or how many years of experience you have. It's about what you're giving back
Oh, wow.
to the basket making community.
That's beautiful. So it's like mentorship, sharing what you know,
Exactly.
making sure that these traditions don't disappear.
You got it. Yeah, the senior basket maker profile in here actually talks about like teaching workshops,
Oh, wow.
participating in exhibitions,
Yeah.
advocating for the craft itself.
Wow.
It's realizing you're part of this lineage, this tradition.
That's really cool. I have to say, hearing all this, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But I'm also realizing how much work goes into it.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a special kind of person to do this. But the good news is RoleCatcher doesn't just, throw all this information at you and then wish you luck. Right.
Yeah.
They actually have practical advice
Okay. Good.
and tools to help people.
So they've got all this knowledge, right?
Mm.
They've put in the time, they've honed their skills.
Mhm.
And then comes the part that honestly makes me nervous just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Actually finding a job.
Right.
So how does RoleCatcher help with that, especially in a field that's, it's not your typical 9-to-5 kind of thing?
Well, I think that's where, the platform really shines, is that it takes something as, traditional as basket making, and it brings it into the digital world.
Yeah, which is so cool.
Yeah, I love when like old school meets new school.
Totally.
And like their jobs module is the perfect example because it's not just like your average job board, It pulls listings from everywhere, like their own network, of course, but also sites like LinkedIn, even like specialized craft boards that, frankly, I'd never even heard of.
Oh, wow. So it's really comprehensive.
Yeah, like it does the searching for you.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But finding the listings is one thing. What about actually, standing out? Because it sounds like it could be a pretty competitive field.
Well, and they've thought of that too.
Okay, good.
Remember how we were talking about the guide emphasizes like having a strong online presence?
Yes.
Well, RoleCatcher has tools that can actually help you build that.
Oh, cool.
So think like, profile templates that are designed for artisans, tips on how to showcase your work, even guidance on how to use social media in a way that makes sense.
It's like they've really thought of everything.
They really have.
So, okay, let's say you've aced it. You've got an interview,
Mm-hmm.
which is like a huge deal in itself.
Huge.
Does RoleCatcher help with the scary interview part?
You know what they do, and this is where the AI features come in, and it's actually really impressive.
Okay.
So imagine this. You upload your CV. Okay.
Hmm?
You tell the AI what kind of basket making job you're going for, and then it analyzes everything.
Oh, wow.
Highlights your strengths, maybe even suggests ways you can make your application even better.
So it's like having a little digital career coach in your back pocket.
Exactly, which I
Right.
think is so helpful, especially when you're first starting out, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
You probably don't even know what you don't know.
Exactly. And get this, they even have this feature called mock interview, where you can practice answering like common interview questions.
Oh, my gosh.
But it's specific to basket making, and the AI will actually analyze your responses,
No way.
your body language, even your tone of voice, and then it gives you feedback.
That's incredible.
It's amazing, right?
It is amazing. What's really struck me throughout this whole deep dive is just how much more there is to basket making than I think a lot of people realize.
It's so true.
It's just this beautiful mix of tradition and creativity. And now, thanks to platforms like RoleCatcher, there's this whole tech side to it too.
It's really cool how, like, technology can actually empower artists like this
Yeah.
and help keep these, like, age-old crafts alive.
Yeah, it's really inspiring.
Mhm.
So to our listener, if you're feeling drawn to this path, right? If you want something that's, hands-on, that's creative, don't let those challenges scare you off.
Yeah, don't be intimidated.
Dive into those RoleCatcher resources. You might just find your calling.
Absolutely.
Till next time, keep those creative sparks flying.
Yeah. See you next time.